Dr. Stuart Burgess, kia ora, good morning. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to describe you as a rocket scientist? I mean, that's certainly part of your CV. You've done a fair amount of rocket science and innovation in that area, Stuart.
Yeah, that's right. I worked for the European Space Agency and worked on some quite big projects like the Hubble Space Telescope, some satellites and rockets. Great fun.
Now, for some people, a deep involvement with science would lead them away from a spiritual explanation for the universe. But for you, that journey has gone in the opposite direction, I understand. That with every scientific inquiry, it draws you closer to God. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I've worked in academia the last 30 years, and I'm really surprised how much science supports the Bible. And that's why I like to go around do speaking on creation to encourage Christians that the science does support the Bible. I think we have this myth that often comes out of the media, often in schools, that science doesn't support the Bible, but it absolutely does. And I'm even surprised how many of my colleagues are at least sympathetic to the idea of intelligent design.
Honestly, when you look at the beauty of creation, and I know you've written a book on this topic, the place that you're standing at the moment, just how gorgeous it is. I imagine it'd be a very difficult place to be an atheist, surrounded by such beauty, such creation, such obvious design.
Exactly. Yes, I said to I'm here with my two boys, and I said to them, you deserve a holiday of a lifetime. Where do you want to go? They said, well, the most beautiful place apparently is the South Island in New Zealand, so
Yeah.
that's why we're here.
Yeah.
And that's what we're finding. And it's what I call a kind of an added beauty, is beauty beyond what is functionally required. You have some very beautiful birds here, and many scientists have thought, why should these birds and butterflies have such brilliant coloring? It really doesn't make sense if you just believe in design by chance.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you'd expect from a creator who wanted to create a beautiful creation.
It goes beyond the pragmatic, doesn't it? Yes, okay, functionally, the design
Exactly.
of the universe all works in a very logical way, but the beauty equation, I suppose, when you bring in things like beauty and joy and love and all of these somewhat more difficult things to nail down, it gets very difficult to explain away God. How does a universe that is full of such beauty and love, how can that just be random chance?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I have met quite a number of scientists who've admitted that beauty really makes them stop and think maybe there must be a God. And surely when we see, the earth is so well suited to mankind, how strange if there wasn't mankind here to enjoy the earth. And I think, when I look at the design of the earth, it's exactly what I would expect. If God had created the earth as a home for man, and if God loved man, I mean, this is another reason I give these creation talks, not just to show that there is a God, but that God deeply loves man, providing for him in every way and giving him the senses to enjoy creation. Really, the Christian worldview is the only worldview that makes sense of the whole world.
Of course, there's some pretty brilliant minds who have been trying to find an alternative narrative for reality, who have spent decades and centuries, in fact, trying to say, yes, but what if there was no God? But how can we make sense of this through naturalistic processes? What if this was random natural selection? There have been some pretty clever minds that have been dedicated to that cause for quite some time, but still fall short of a convincing answer for some.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing I would say is that I've been surprised the number of atheists in academia. It's actually in a minority.
Mm-hmm.
Often they're very vocal, but most of the academics I know, they're agnostic. So there aren't that many people, but also recent discoveries about the incredible complexity of life. You look at the design of the living cell. And more people are questioning that naturalistic worldview. How could it possibly account for the complexity and beauty we see in creation? So there's definitely a pushback at the moment. And I don't just get invites to churches. I'm giving talks in universities and schools as well. There's definitely an increased interest in creation. And I mean, I must mention Creation Ministries International. They
Yeah.
have some really excellent resources. Creation.com is their website.
Mm-hmm.
And it answers so many questions that, the people have about that whole battle between the worldviews, the atheistic worldview and the Christian worldview.
In terms of what surprises you, in terms of, I suppose, that scientific inquiry, what's surprised you recently about the natural world, Stuart?
Well, recently I've been working on prosthetic joints like knee joints and foot joints. And just last year, I published a paper on one of the most advanced foot joints. And there are things that God has done in the human body that engineers haven't dared to do. For example, in the human foot, it can reconfigure itself between being stiff and flexible, and engineers just cannot copy it. So I'd say one of the things I've really been learning recently is the superiority of design in creation over design of human technology. That's become clearer to me, and that's exactly what you'd expect if God had designed the world, because we read in the book of Job in chapter 37, God is perfect in knowledge, and that's why it's good to copy God's creation. Engineers are copying what God has done in creation because God is perfect in knowledge. So yeah, maybe that's the best thing to say. I'm discovering God's perfection in creation.
Are scientists okay with mystery? Is it okay that there are some things that we can't explain either scientifically or theologically? Do you find in the scientific community that people are okay saying, hey, we don't understand this, or perhaps we don't understand this yet, and perhaps we don't need to understand it?
Now, I think that's a good point. There is a debate within academia. If you have an atheist like Richard Dawkins, he thinks science should be able to answer absolutely everything. But more and more academics are saying, hang on, it can't answer purpose, it can't answer why we're here. And therefore, perhaps there is a place for religion, for the Christian worldview. So there's definitely a debate, and that debate is growing, I think, because it's so I mean, it just doesn't make sense, the idea that everything has a naturalistic answer.
And hey, maybe religion and science are looking at the same issues, but perhaps asking different questions, Stuart?
No, that's absolutely right. And if you go back to the greatest scientists that ever lived, Isaac Newton, Boyle, Lord Kelvin, James Clerk Maxwell, Michael Faraday, all of those great scientists saw science and religion as being completely complementary, and religion answering those deeper questions. So, and I think it's important for modern society not to forget that those great scientists, I mean, they were incredibly intelligent scientists. They saw no conflict between science and Christianity.
In terms of your book, Inspiration from Creation, lots of stories, lots of examples of just the glory of God in some of the intricate design in creation. Pick an example for us, Stuart, of a natural process which to you shows God's glory in creation.
Yeah, one of the examples in my book, one of the most fun projects I had was designing a micro air vehicle. It was for the UK Ministry of Defence, small air vehicle. And I used the dragonfly as inspiration. And it was really awe-inspiring. We captured these European dragonflies, put them in tubs, used high-speed film to measure the movement of their wings, flapping at 50 times per second, but not just flapping at 50 times per second, but twisting at exactly the right time to produce amazing aerodynamic effects. And that just showed us that this humble dragonfly could do more aerodynamically than even the best human fighter jets or aeroplanes. And yet some biology books would describe a dragonfly as a primitive creature, but it's not a primitive creature at all.
Yeah.
It's a really good example of copying a master's design. Very inspiring and it's inspiring to be thinking God's thoughts after him.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did he put this in the dragonfly? How can I do that myself? And so that would be an example of, how modern science is giving evidence for a creator and his goodness. That particular example I'll be giving on Sunday evening at the 7:00 church at the Activate Church.
We'll certainly look forward to that. And hey, perhaps people can also find out there how you got on with replicating a mechanical dragonfly. Stuart, thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday to chat with us. A fascinating conversation. As you say, people can see more at the session coming up this weekend. I understand the Activate Church in Christchurch. Details at creation.com/New Zealand. Stuart, blessings on you and your family and your time in New Zealand. Thank you for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you. I know it's going to be an inspiring week for me. Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.